Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
Well, we got a lot of WSL to talk about, and some of it pertains to a card, some of it pertains to a penalty kick, some of it pertains to a huge transfer. Gee, whatever could I be referring to, Allie? How are you doing?
I'm good. I am good. Spoiler alert, but I had a brilliant weekend because my team actually won. It was wonderful.
That is spoiler alert. And I'm glad you said that because we're also going to get into the bottom of the table here, which has been arguably more fun than the top of the table this year, but some huge, very key results from this weekend that we're going to talk about as well, which, I don't know. Are you more excited, Allie, to talk about the red card that we're going to discuss or the bottom of the table?
I think bottom of the table because you're right. When we talk about the red card, we're going to talk about how the top of the league is kind of done, but the bottom of the league, it's so frenetic. It's just frenetic and crazy, and you don't know who's going to do what each week. It was absolutely insane. So I'm excited to talk about the bottom of the table because there were some games in that.
I'm excited to talk about this red card because I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet, Allie, and I think we might. I don't know. I have no clue what you're going to say, so I'm excited to get into that. We're then going to get into the NWSL in the back half of this episode and talk highlight signings, highlight trades from this past offseason. Then it's the news that Carla Ward has become the new head coach, the Republic of Ireland women's national team. It's not getting a lot of headlines, but when we texted Allie, you equated this to being as big as Sony to Canada, and I agree. But before we get into any of that, really quick, I was at NWSL Media Day last week. There were a lot of learnings. We have a lot to share. That's all going to come out on Patreon and in another episode. I think we want to do it as its own episode because we have a lot of audio, so we'll put that out separately. But the biggest learning is Lynn, formerly known as Williams, changed her last name right before Media Day. It was announced, and none of us knew how to pronounce it. And guess what? We got the pronunciation from Lynn herself. So Lynn Williams is no longer. She is now known as Lynn Biendolo. The emphasis is on that second to last O. So Biendolo. Biendolo, everybody. Lynn Biendolo.
So we are going to kick off this episode talking about the WSL. And there is only one game we can talk about, but we're not going to actually talk about the game because I don't know if you got around to watching it, Sarah, but I did. And as I said to you, I've had blood tests that were more fun. The only thing that was talkable was the thing that happened at the very beginning before kickoff, the interview in the halftime, and the last 10 minutes.
I'm not going to lie. I was not awake for this. It was very early. And then you told me it was a snooze fest when I was about to watch it on replay. And I was like, well, why am I going to watch this whole thing? Did a nice fast forward to about the 75th minute and watch the last 15. So you're going to have to tell me about whatever that halftime interview was. You want to talk about the red card. Why did you want to talk about the red card?
I want to talk about the red card because everybody's talking about the red card. First off, it's only Kate McCabe's second red card in her career, which I find insane.
Not second red, but second straight red. She's gotten plenty of double yellows.
I don't think she has, That's the thing.
That's shocking.
That's what I mean. Because somebody said that's only her second red. And I had a look and I think we expect her to have had double yellows. She's had a cumulative yellows. So she's had game suspensions throughout the season because she's accumulated so many yellows.
She does know how to toe the line. And also, as many people have pointed out, she does get the benefit and the privilege of a lot of referees just kind of not giving her that second yellow that she maybe deserved.
Exactly. And that's why we want to talk about it. And it's why we want to talk about it. I want to talk about it in two factors. I want to talk about what led to the penalty, because that is not the red card. As you mentioned, that was not even Katie McCabe, it was Kim Little. Because you fall into two camps. You either fall into Arsenal fan camp, which was that was never a penalty, poor us, or you fall into the rest of women's football goes that was a stone wall penalty if I ever saw one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I want to talk about the red card. All
right, let's do number one first, and let's talk about that penalty, because you're right. Kim Little taking on Lauren James. She does get, as you can see, in the slow motion replay, like a little bit of ball, but mainly takes out Lauren James. And I will put my hands up and say, as much as I didn't want it to be one, how can you not call that? It was like 98% player and 2% ball, like right at the 6 yard, like right at the 6. And it's a pen. It's a pen all day. I don't blame Kim Little for that, though, to be totally frank. I blame a lot of the defense and the defenders that were completely broken down in the process. It was a travesty to watch how quickly Lauren James just quickly dismantled and took out. Mariona Caldente was on the recovery run, stepped in on Lauren James, and all it took for Lauren James, like a quick little like stop and restart to get around Mariona Caldente, because she stepped in so hard on Lauren James. And when you're in a recovery run, when you're waiting for your team, when you're trying to slow down play for your team to get back, that's the last thing you do, let alone on a player like Lauren James. You don't step in on her like that. And when I saw that happen, I was like, Arsenal are done. Like, Lauren James is about to score this. She didn't. She got fouled in the box, but it's all one and the same. Kim Little did what she had to do to try to stop Lauren James and put her body on the line. Didn't get the ball. That's what happened. It was a penalty. I don't blame Kim Little. That was a complete breakdown, in my opinion, by the recovery of Arsenal. And Allie Krieger on the call said that Arsenal did a great job of getting back behind the ball. I completely disagree, but I disagreed with a lot of what she said on that call. We'll come on to that. Anyways, I have a lot of feelings and opinions, not about the call, though. That was the right call.
Well, that's the thing, because, and this is what I wanted to bring it up, and I put it out on Twitter, and I had a few responses, which is, I keep seeing a lot of people, and when I say people, I mean Arsenal fans, go, but Kim Little got the ball. She got the ball. How is it a foul if she got the ball? She got the ball. And I'm like, you can't take the player out even if you get the ball. Like, and even then, she got like a stud to the ball and took out Lauren James. That's still a foul. That is still a Stonewall penalty, hands down. Like, it's unfortunate for Arsenal. It's unfortunate for Kim Little. But you cannot, in good consciousness, say that it wasn't. Yeah. And then you get people going, oh, well, Lauren James is a known diver. No, she's not.
No, she's not. And I was just about to say, like, I was watching to see if there was a dive there. I was like, she got taken down. I don't believe that to be a dive. And there's also the side of it that's like, and it's hard for people, like, I played defensive midfield. So this is coming from kind of like a defensive perspective, which is very protective of the defenders. But the reality is, somebody can dive and it can still be a foul. They can just be trying to exaggerate. And I hate divers, but the two can coexist. It's not one or the other.
So I had to get that in there because there was a lot of talk about how it couldn't be a penalty. And I'm like, you're blind.
Yeah, it was a pen.
Blind. That was a penalty.
It was a pen. But to lead us on to point number 2, what I didn't see and what my commentators didn't tell me anything that was happening, it cut away to somebody and then it cut back to Katie McCabe getting a red card. We didn't really see her having a conversation with the referee. We didn't really see anything. I wish we did, because then we could have one of those lip readers on TikTok come in and tell us everything that happened.
That's your terrible coverage, because we did.
We didn't. Tell us what happened.
So, Katie McCabe goes up, and again, she shouldn't, because she's not captain. So she goes up to the ref and starts having a go at the ref about the penalty call, saying that, it wasn't a pen, like
give us a demeanor. Was it a calm fashion? Was it a fiery fashion?
It was typical Kate McCabe fashion. She's gone up there fuming, and she's arguing, and to the point that Kim Little's pulling her away to be like, this is not what the thing. So you can see that Emily Hayslip, the ref, has gone into it. She's going to pick up a yellow for dissent. Like, you can see it's in her pocket. She's going to pull it out for dissent. So she's about to book her with a yellow, and Katie McCabe is walking away and turns around, and there is debates about exactly what she said, but from what everybody's saying, she said F off to the referee. And that's when the ref went, no, wait, no, you're not getting a yellow now. And that's why the straight red was pulled. A lot at the time, people thought it was 2 yellows that she got in quick succession, that she got the yellow for mouthing off and then got the yellow for the swearing at the ref. But it looks like Hayslip changed her mind on the card colour, and it's a straight red.
I'm really sorry, but I have a very strong opinion about this that might not be your opinion, and that is that There should be one yellow card awarded for the entirety of her quote unquote dissent. And I don't mean this to be specific to Katie McCabe.
Have you been talking to Helen? Because Helen Hardy had this opinion, and I disagreed entirely with her, so let's do it.
You know, Helen has some wild opinions, most of which I don't agree with, but this one, good on you, Helen. Me too. I'm just like, I don't know. We're in the heat of the moment. We're in a fiery competition, and we're really going to hold players. Like, I'm good with holding players accountable for their demeanor, of course. And, you know, sometimes it extends to the point where, like, I think you should get a straight red for something like that if you're saying something really bigoted and hateful and, you know, racist, sexist, homophobic, you name it. But if you're just saying F off, come on now. Like, that is not worthy of an upgrade from a yellow to a red. And I don't immediately agree with players getting awarded yellows for dissent to a referee to begin with. Again, barring, you know, the hateful stuff, but just kind of like having a word to the referee, I don't fully agree with. I can get on board with it because the referees have to deal with a lot and we have to protect them in some capacity. So I'm on board with that. But this goes really too far for me, where you are changing a game because in the heat of a competitive moment, a competitor said F off. Like, come on. It's just not that big of a deal.
So I think you hit the nail on the head in the fact that we do need to protect our referees a bit more. I am, you know, the first to like complain about a referee. I will. But they do get so much stick, and we are seeing it in the men's game. There is a referee called Michael Oliver that has had to go and move his family because he's getting death threats to his home and things like that. So it's not easy being a ref. We see it week in, week out in non-league games and in youth games where parents are giving referees things and we're driving referees out of the game. So they are clamping down on behaviour like that towards the ref. And I get that she said it in the heat of the moment, but you're telling me now that if any other player did it and any player player of colour did it, then there wouldn't be no argument. And that's the problem. Well, we're seeing it in the fact that if in the other way around and Lauren James did it, most people haven't argued about that because Lauren James has a temper, whereas Kate McCabe is a character.
Well, but that you're talking about like the people shouting to the void on Twitter. I personally would be sitting here with the exact same opinion I'm talking about as a whole. And you're like, if this had happened to Lauren James, I would have been saying the same thing, maybe even more so, because most very like hateful, probably people who are racist would be coming for Lauren James or something like that. And I might feel even more defensive of her. I stand by this no matter what player it is. And that's even just having said that, I think Katie McCabe gets off easy. I still think that this was harsh. And perhaps this was just kind of like a lifetime achievement award for Katie McCabe, where it was just like, maybe if it was like Leah Williamson, she would not have been red carded. Maybe this was reputation based a little bit, which to me, honestly, that feels a little bit more fair than giving her a red card for saying F off. If you want to give her a red card because you're like, I've had enough of this and of you, and here's your lifetime achievement award, and go sit on the bench. At least there's something to back that up.
The thing is, she did 2 bookable offences. And it is up to the ref's discretion, but for me, I think it was highly awarded. I personally thought it was 2 yellows, and it's like the fact it's now come out that it was a straight red, but it was 2 bookable offences. She was booked for dissent, and she was booked for foul and abusive language. And those are 2 separate bookable offences.
Let me ask a question about foul and abusive language. Is that like if you say a quote-unquote swear word, period, the end in FA, or it's directed at the referee?
It's got to be directed. So that was clear. You look at the video, it is clearly Katie McCabe turns around, stares at Emily Hayslip and says F off. Or some people think she says the C word. Either way, it's direct, like...
Which colloquially is more accepted over there, by the way.
I have to control myself when I'm recording this pod to realise I can't do that here. Because over here we say it
you
all
can't
the time.
say that.
But you see it, she stares directly at Emily Hayslip. So it's not like a general swearing. It's directed at the ref.
I just think there should be layers where I'm like, I'm good with that if it's saying something that is like actually abusive. But if a player in the heat of the moment tells me to F off, that's gonna roll right off my back. Sorry. it's I think it has more to do with what was said than the fact that she did it, I guess. Like, if you had told me she had said something worse or like come at the referee for like her appearance, I'd been like, oh, get her off this field. But it was such a general, oh, F off. I don't know. I see it both ways. I just, as somebody who at one time in my playing career, I got a yellow card for saying the F word just generally, not at anybody. Like, I messed up and I said it and I was booked. And so I have a very strong opinion about this.
Because like I mentioned about Helen. Helen talked about the fact that she almost got booked for saying to a ref, you need to stop booking players to make this game more interesting, bro. And her teammates had to pull her away.
That's really funny, though.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
It's different with swearing in general. Like, amount of times that you do hear players swear when they've messed up, and it's fine. It's when it's directed. But I do think it should have been a red. And the problem now is, and then we'll get on to more fun stuff in a bit, is because it is now not 2 yellows and it is a direct red, Arsenal can appeal it if they want to. I don't think they'll get very far if they do, because there is literal video of her swearing at the referee. It now means that it's likely to be a 2-game ban instead of a 1-game ban, which is what 2 yellows would have been.
Oh, yeah, and that's big.
It's a massive 2 games. It's a huge game. So it's Man City for sure. Yeah. Is not happening for Katie McCabe. And then there isn't the game after as well, which
is the North London Derby.
It's the North London Derby. And Tottenham have taken it to Arsenal before. Yep. So to lose such a powerhouse that is Kate McCabe, you're in 4th, you're out of Champions League contention. Like, this is bad news bears, man. This is bad news bears for Arsenal. Big time.
All right, let's move it along because we haven't really mentioned Chelsea. We're not really going to, except for their brand new signing. Let's get into it, Allie, because we have to talk the worst kept secret ever. When it got announced, I literally sat there and I was like, I'm sorry, hasn't this already been announced? Like, what's going on right now? I genuinely thought we'd done this before, but we had not. And Naomi Girma officially goes to Chelsea, record $1 million transfer. I'm going to put you on blast, Allie. You said something really dumb in the group chat. You said, will she start?
Yeah, I stand by that.
Will one of the best defenders in the world and arguably one of the best players in the world and arguably the best center back in the world start? Yeah, she's going to start. That's not the question. The question is, who is she going to start instead of?
Which is when you said something stupid.
Fair enough.
I think it's going to... You went, I think it's going to be Millie Bright. Mrs. Chelsea, that is their captain, has been at Chelsea forever, is the leader, is the light. No, it's going to be Bjorn if she's going to replace somebody.
Here's the thing. I agree that was a stupid thing to say in the context of that it will be. It won't be. I think it should be. I think that Bjorn has had a better season than Bright so far for Chelsea. If we're looking at the 2 center backs, I thought she was better in this game against Arsenal that they just played. But I think you're right. It would be quite a bit for Bright to be benched. That is for sure.
You call me out, I call you out.
All right, so let's get into it because when this came out, Arsenal and Lyon were also in the running to get Naomi Girma. And you, Allie, said that Girma went to Chelsea because Emma Hayes told her to go to Chelsea, right?
Yeah, and I stand by that, but you make it sound too simplistic. I don't mean it just like that they went to a national training camp and Emma Hayes went, go to Chelsea. What I mean is, I feel like the biggest selling point for Chelsea will be the coach that's been with them for 10 odd years. So if Naomi Girma is going, hey, coach, I've got an offer from Arsenal, I've got an offer from Lyon, and I've got an offer from Chelsea, Emma Hayes can go, right, if you go to Chelsea, you're going to get this, 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 and this. You're going to get these training facilities. You're going to get this teammate. You're going to do this, 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 and this. Whereas Arsenal and Lyon don't have that in. So that's what I mean by Emma Hayes told her to, because Emma Hayes will have had Girma's ear and been like gave the pitch to Chelsea, because she's still Chelsea. She talks about it all the time, how she still is Chelsea and like her heart still belongs to that club. So if Girma's going, hey, should I go to Chelsea? Of course Emma Hayes is going to say yes. That's what I meant by Emma Hayes.
I do think you're right about that. And we've seen that Emma Hayes really has like the attention in the ear of a lot of players on the U.S. women's national team. Jaden Shaw at NWSL Media Day was talking about how, North Carolina Courage presented her with the opportunity to grow in a specific position, that she'd been talking to Emma Hayes about how she wants to grow as a player, and North Carolina afforded her those opportunities. Like, Emma Hayes has the ear of all of these players because they want to grow, they want to develop, they want to be on her team, and they want her to see what she has told them she wants to see. I think that there are also more layers that I think are really interesting and I want to talk about, specifically, honestly, in regards to Arsenal, because yes, Chelsea were the best pick according to Hayes and probably were the best pick, but we have to talk about why they were the best pick. And I think first and foremost, Arsenal's coaching situation, we need to just put that on the table. It's unstable. You don't want to be a player going into a situation that's super unstable. I get that. Now, having mentioned that, Arsenal, and I saw this online, and I saw this as like a very like kind of like small part of the Arsenal internet. And I thought it was really interesting. Arsenal have been very, as the kids say, mid for a long time. They're average, they're mediocre. They absolutely will not be contending for the WSL title, and they haven't been in a very long time, not in a true sense. They won't make it far in Champions League this year. I'm going to guess they haven't made it very far in a long time. And the worst part about that is that they seem to be fully content with that as a club and have been for a long time. There have been no moves that make me think the contrary. They have every capability to be as dominant as Chelsea. They pull the most revenue of the WSL. They have massive crowds. They are arguably one of the most, storied women's teams in a long time. They've been around winning Champions Leagues before some of these teams even existed in the WSL. And yet, look at their January. This is the window, the January transfer window. What have they done? What have they done to try to bring themselves up from they're in fourth place right now? What have they done to try to bring themselves up from there? Absolutely nothing. There is a lack of ambition from this club that is utterly infuriating. And Jonas Eidevall was an issue, but it extends higher than that. This is a club that used to be like the pinnacle of investment in the women's side and is now completely resting on their reputation. It doesn't seem like winning the WSL is important anymore. They just want a Champions League spot at this point, and no player wants to play at a club like that. So, of course she went to Chelsea. And, I mean, we can throw Lyon in there. Obviously, Lyon made it really far in the Champions League last year. They made it to the final. But they're in turmoil. Nobody in the French league is playing well right now, so she's not going to the French league. There's also a history of U.S. women's national team players kind of like hating to play in the French league. So anyways, there's a lot there. Mainly, I thought this was a really interesting point about Arsenal.
I think it's a great point too. Mike, you can probably edit this out, but I did see someone go, why is Girma not gone to Lyon? Because she does not want to have to face Corbin Albert more than
That's
she
really
has
funny.
to when they play PSG.
That's really funny. I mean, there's a reason, though. There's a reason.
And I enjoyed that.
Yeah. If you think about these three teams, Chelsea, Lyon, Arsenal, Chelsea's really the only, real contender right now. They're the only true competitive football team. And yeah, Lyon will go because there's not really a lot of competition in the French league. They'll get into the Champions League once again. Who knows how far they'll go this year, whatever. But if you keep it to the WSL, City's not a huge contender. Arsenal's not a huge contender. United's not a huge contender. It is so obvious why she went to Chelsea when you look at it like that. And you said to me, Allie, Rodman's probably going to go there too. And when you look at it like this, why wouldn't she, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. The reason, I know you made fun of me for saying, is Girma going to play? The reason I say that is because there is so many players at Chelsea.
Yeah.
There are so many players. And yeah, Girma probably will slot right in as a starter. But I would be concerned as a player going to Chelsea about whether I will get game time. And yeah, Girma's wonderful and fantastic. Maybe that's not a consideration. Rodman, I would have more of a concern just because the position she plays, and they do have 4 players for that position.
But that's part of the draw too, is, these are competitive athletes who want to grow and get better. And what's the way to do that? You play against the best. And my money is that that's part of the selling point from Emma Hayes to these players is like, hey, you want to practice against the best players in the world on a day-to-day basis? That's where you get it. I'm
just excited she's in the WSL. I'm not going to lie.
I don't mean to make the Girma thing about Arsenal, but I just... Do you feel what I just said is... Do you agree with what I just said about Arsenal?
I do, because the problem is with Arsenal, and it's a problem they've had for so long, is that they have... I compare it to Chloe Kelly and Serena Wiegmann in the fact that when Chloe Kelly got picked for England and hadn't played for Man City, Serena said, oh, well, she's got a lot of minutes in the bank for us. And I feel like that with Arsenal. Arsenal have got a lot of minutes in the bank in women's football because of the fact they were one of the first to pay their women's team properly. They were one of the first to get success in... It wasn't called Champions League then, but they've won the European title back when they were the first ones to, have players like Steph Houghton, Ellen White, Rachel Yankee, Alex Scott, Emma Byrne. I could name like thousands of teams. Casey Stoney, Kim Little, who's come back to Arsenal. They were the stepping stone for so many things, and they are it's running out. That credit is running out because at this point it is okay, great, you were the forerunners of women's football, you were the team that everybody had to beat and play for to get ahead, but you're not now.
And it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. You won the league a few years ago. I think it was like the 2017 series.
That was a long time ago at this point, though.
It was the year before Chelsea won it for their 5 years in a row. And so they did do it, but yeah, it's like, it does feel like they are running out of credit in the bank and they need to step it up because the support is there, the fans are there, the club seems to back them to an extent. You need to push it further.
Mm-hmm. It's not good enough. All right, let's quickly talk bottom of the table of the WSL before we move out of the WSL, because there were some big results this weekend that have a heavy impact on how we think the bottom of the table is going to shake out. First and foremost, Allie's West Ham took it 2-0 over Everton, and possibly the biggest result, Leicester City 2-1 over Liverpool. And when you look at the bottom of the table now, the reason why that matters is that Leicester City now sit in 11th out of 12 places, 9 points over 5 points to Crystal Palace. So 4 points out of the bottom slot. And that feels like a big hill to climb for Crystal Palace now that Leicester City got that win.
100%. And we were talking about that on Sunday when you're looking at the results, is the fact that it does feel like Palace are going down. Like they've cemented their position at the bottom of the table and they're going down. It's very similar to Bristol last season, which was around this time that we thought, okay, because they're not beating the teams around them, Palace, and teams like Leicester and West Ham on Sunday are. Everton's in that relegation battle. West Ham beat them 2-0 to get themselves 2 points above. We're not seeing that. So it does feel like, for me, that is sort of cementing Palace's bottom status. You look at the goal difference as well. It's a -24 goal difference, which is a bit harsh.
The crazy thing is that Crystal Palace have scored double the amount of goals this season than Leicester City have, but they have allowed more than double that Leicester City have.
Yeah, me and Mike had this conversation on the other 8, which is Leicester, up until this weekend, had scored 3 goals.
Yeah. That's
3
crazy.
goals!
That's crazy. I mean, Everton hasn't scored that much either. 7 goals in 12 games for Everton. And no wonder West Ham beat them. West Ham scored double the amount of goals they have this season. That was a big win for West Ham because when you look at how the points would have fallen, if Everton had gotten that win, I feel like that would have put them kind of like out of this bottom of the table relegation battle that would have put them above Liverpool, underneath Tottenham. It would have been in 7th place. And instead, West Ham sit in 8th and Everton down in 10th.
Yeah, it's so close at the bottom. It still could fall to... Anyway, I think Spurs and Brighton have got themselves a nice little point gap. West Ham take on Liverpool in the next game in the league, so whoever takes that will either cement themselves in 7th or West Ham can jump over Liverpool.
Yeah, but you're right. This table has really fallen exactly into... There are 4 top teams. There are 2 middle teams, and then there are 6 bottom teams.
Yeah.
That's how it's fallen.
Yeah, which is weird because normally it's like bottom 3 teams, middle of the pack that do various things, and then the top 4. So this year it's been a bit interesting at the bottom of the table.
A little bit. Who does Crystal Palace take on next?
Crystal Palace have Brighton next weekend, and then 2 weekends after that they've got Manchester United. So those are 2 very tough games.
Crystal Palace, because of their terrible goal differential, they need 2 wins to jump ahead of Leicester City in terms of points. Do you see at all where they could get those 2 wins?
So, like I said, it is about beating the teams around them. They could potentially beat Leicester. They've still got to play Leicester again, so they could potentially beat Leicester and Everton. But by the time they play them, because if you look, they don't play Everton until the 22nd of March.
Yeah, and Leicester City's the second to last game of the season.
And this is the second game of last season. They could have already cemented their fate by then. And you also don't know who Leicester...
Right, that's also hoping that the rest of these teams basically like lose out.
Exactly. So unfortunately, for the fixtures aren't falling kind for Palace.
It's not looking good.
It's not looking good.
And here's another reason why we need to open up to maybe 2 teams being relegated, 2 teams being promoted. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
To Scotland, and there are big moves in the Scottish League. Glasgow City dropped points against Hibs, which allowed Rangers to close the gap to just 2 points. The win also allowed Hibs to equal Rangers on points to go 3rd, meaning the title could leave Glasgow for the first time in so many seasons.
And to Spain, Barcelona win their first silverware of the season with a 5-0 win over Real Madrid, winning the Supercopa 3 years in a row now. Will they do the domestic treble once again?
To Italy, and Juve go back to 7 points clear after their win this weekend. Roma narrowly lost to Milan, but they still remain 3rd. But it's looking like the title is for Juve this season.
And finally, to Australia. We are halfway through the A-League, and it is looking like a Melbourne double this season. Melbourne City are currently topping the table with the victory just under in 2nd. Adelaide round out the top 3.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
So, to the NWSL, which is kicking off so soon. It feels like it just ended. And
I mean, it did. It's crazy. The season truly feels like it's like 11 months. For the teams that played into the final, they played into November. And then they've had to report back for preseason this week in January. So it kind of was like an 11-month season for them, if you count preseason.
I was going to say, it feels like it's just ended and now it's coming back, which means transfers. And we love talking transfers. And this is the first full season without the draft. So we're going to see...
This is the first off season without it, yeah.
First off season without a draft. So we are seeing players with a bit more autonomy being moved about, and I'm excited to see, but it's already been wild. It's already been wild, and it's not even, barely begun. The big one, the big news, and we have to talk about it, is Houston Dash are being sold. This is massive news that just came out of Houston. So tell us very quickly what this means for them.
God only knows. Really, Houston, this is just it's just the capper on a wild ride of Houston Dash for the past year. It's a completely different head coach, GM, and now owner going into this 2025 season than last year. And I mean, this organization has been in utter turmoil for like 12 months. So hopefully this can mean a little bit of stability. Hopefully this can be the start of moving forward into, I don't know, a new Houston Dash and out of this utter chaos. They've made a lot of signings. They've been doing their work in the offseason. They've got a brand new coach. Mind you, it's his first time as a head coach. So we'll see how that goes. At this point, I think change can only be a positive for the Dash, but it has to be the only change. There can't be more moving forward. We have to be like, okay, now we're done with the change, because there's been a lot of it in the past year. And it's clear that I think they needed new people at the top. Nobody knows right now with the Dash. Nobody knows. That's the headline.
But let's talk about the moves, because they have made some brilliant moves.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the most headline move that they've made was they got Yasmin Ryan from Gotham FC. I think this was really their biggest signing yet. Yasmin Ryan has been such an integral part of Gotham FC and was an integral part of them winning the championship. I think she's been one of the most underrated players in Gotham FC. She just got her first call up to U.S. Women's National Team camp and got her first cap this past year in 2024. And she's a young star, and I'm excited to see her as more of a centerpiece and a leader and a focal point for this Houston Dash team. They also got Messiah Bright from Angel City. That's pretty new information. And then Danielle Colaprico and Maggie Graham, two midfielders that were also signed. They had huge holes in the midfield. So they've made good moves in the offseason. It's just a matter of, can they be stable moving forward? Can they build something? Because you can't build something if, the head coach keeps changing, the GM keeps, you just can't build something. So that's the biggest plight for Houston right now.
So moving on from Houston, we alluded to it earlier, but Alana Kennedy has moved from city to city. She is going from Manchester City to Angel City. And in true fashion, it got announced by Man City that she'd gone to Angel City before Angel City had announced it. So...
Oh, yeah. Didn't they put it on their Instagram and then have to take it down or something like that?
Yes, they did.
That's so funny. For those who don't remember, Alana Kennedy was at the Orlando Pride for a while, for a few years actually, and she moved, I believe, to the WSL during the pandemic when a lot of people were moving from the NWSL to the WSL so they get more games, more minutes, etc. I mean, I think this is a good move for her. I don't know if it's a great move for the club. I'm just going to be totally frank with that. I love Alana Kennedy. I think she's wonderful. I think she's a wonderful leader. I don't know how, I do know she was pretty shaky at Orlando holding down the back line. So it really, I think it's a toss up. She's one of those players that when she's great, but when she's off, she makes a lot of mistakes. So I think this will be a great addition to the locker room, and we'll see how it goes on the field.
There has been a massive move by Portland. They have taken a player from BFC. Who have they taken, Sarah?
I don't know if they were taken or if they were given. Dana Castellanos. This is a big deal for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, Dana Castellanos from BFC to Portland. And the details of this, Dana Castellanos was one of the first signings that BFC ever made as an expansion team, and they touted her as their future number 10 that was going to pull the strings and orchestrate the entire offense. And by the end of the season, she'd lost her role, lost a lot of her minutes, and now BFC bought her out of her contract, paid $1 million to her to buy her out so she could then go to Portland. They effectively paid her $1 million to not play for them, which is crazy when you think about it. But at the end of the day, I think it's a great move. I think it's the right move for BFC. And I think that she will be more of a role player at Portland, which I think will be good for her too. And Portland need players at this point. They need people. They need bodies. They had a huge exodus.
So one signing that shocked the WSL is Kenza Darley to San Diego Wave from Aston Villa. I have to say, I do fear for Aston Villa because she was a huge playmaker for them.
Yeah, what do you think of this move, Allie? Why do you think she was so keen to leave Villa?
I think they've been in a lot of turmoil. They've now gone through, they're on their third manager in a year. And we'll talk about one
so is San Diego.
Yeah, but it's nicer weather than in Birmingham. I think Darlie wanted to get back into the NWSL, cement her France place. But I am concerned for Villa because it was Darlie Daly. That's what we talked about for so long. And also, I'm not going to lie, they probably paid her a lot of money because there is a slight salary cap in the WSL.
There's a salary cap now in the NWSL too, though.
Yeah, but you know that she got some like relocation money, and
there has been a bit of an influx of French players into the NWSL and specifically to the Southern California teams. And you're saying it's partly because of weather, partly because of money. I don't know. There's something there. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something there. I don't know if it's like a culture thing, and I don't know what that would mean. Is it a culture that they're trying to get away from? Is it a culture that they're trying to move towards? Is it a similarity of cultures? I don't know, but at this moment, there's quite an influx. Is it playing time? Because it very well could just be playing time where she knows she's going to get more at a certain team, but I don't know. She was getting plenty at Villa.
I was going to say she was like one of Villa's like key players. So
yeah,
playing time doesn't feel like to me to be a factor. I feel like there's outside factors at a play here.
Yeah, as it does, something to do with Villa. There's just a little piece that's missing that we have to just be like, there's some weird toxicity at that place, and that's what we have to chalk it up to.
Absolutely. And then our final big name one that we are going to talk about is Jaden Shaw and Lynn Biendolo.
There you go. Your first time saying the new last name.
Has gone to the North Carolina Courage. We mentioned Shaw briefly on a previous episode, but Lynn going there as well. This is massive. Like, what's this mean for North Carolina?
Oh my gosh. Think about it. They're going to be playing with Ashley Sanchez now. Like, North Carolina is already a force to be reckoned with, and we haven't talked about them a lot in recent years because they haven't been like at the top. We're used to North Carolina repeating, double, three-peat, so on and so forth, but they're still always contenders, and with these additions, it's just going to be even more so. And I spoke earlier, Jaden Shaw was pretty clear that, North Carolina affords her the opportunity to develop as a player in the way that she wants to, more than she felt San Diego was going to. And Lynn Biendolo has been pretty outspoken. A lot of people have about some turmoil at Gotham FC that she wanted to get away from. And I mean, talking about playing time, she's going to get much more of it, and I think fit into the system a lot better at North Carolina. I'm really excited to watch these players together.
Yeah. And this is just a highlight on the wheel of transfers over at the NWSL. We are going to do a very special Patreon episode. We're going to drag out the Woso crew for that. So keep tuned and, subscribe to that Patreon. We'll get that in early.
All right, let's go on to our final topic. And finally, to the Republic of Ireland, as Carla Ward is announced as the new head coach of the Republic of Ireland's women's national team. Allie, talk to us.
This is massive, and I think it did get very underreported because it got announced the same week as Casey Stoney going to Canada. And I feel like it is of equal importance. Carla Ward is a phenomenal coach, has got a great history. She is Emma Hayes approved. Emma Hayes loves Carla Ward's coaching style. She left Villa, which was her last post at the end of last season, because she wanted to step down. She got a young family. She couldn't commit to Villa week in, week out, which is why national team coaching is perfect for her, because it's not as intensive. She can do a lot of it, at home, because it's watching videos and analysis and stuff like that. So it's perfect. So Republic of Ireland, we talk about turmoil. They've been in a lot of turmoil recently. They had Eileen Gleeson, who was fired after them failing to qualify for the Euros. Now, she was only in for a year, and she was a bit of an interim coach, to be honest. I think they sort of were trying to work out whether she was going to be permanent. Their previous coach, Vera Paul, was fired for alleged abusive behaviour.
That was like right after the World Cup, right?
Right after the World Cup, and we're talking about commenting on players' weights,
right,
and, not being a good environment, and players have come out and have talked about how that they just weren't comfortable there at all. So you had Gleeson in sort of an interim, and they've decided no, they want to go for someone tried and true, and they have gone for Carla Ward as their new head coach. And she's been at Sheffield, she was at Birmingham City before going to Aston Villa. She's very player focused. Players that have been coached by her have said that previously, that she is very focused on player welfare and player just being there for player care, and which is what I think Ireland need after what's happened with the last couple of coaches. It's not been fantastic. And also Ireland need to regroup. You know, it's for the World Cup qualifiers. We've got 2 more years to the World Cup, and they've got to regroup. They've got an aging squad. There's no middle ground at the moment in the Republic of Ireland. They've got youngsters who are like 18, 19, getting that first senior call up, and they've got players in their 30s, and there is no middle, and they need to, you know, work on aging out the players that need to age out and bring in some players that may not have had the caps because they've not.
That's a tough spot to be in. It's a hard spot for any team. Like, I think we've seen every team in the world struggle in that specific spot, but it has to be done. I think Carla Ward's a good person for that. I do want to know how people who live in the Republic of Ireland and are Irish feel about having an English coach, if they're okay with it. I just want to know.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. It can be a consideration. It can be a consideration. So Irish fans, hit us up. How do we feel about Carla
How do
Ward?
we feel? Maybe it's like jury's out. If we win a lot, we're okay with it. If not, get her out of here. I don't know. I'm curious. I never expected them to hire somebody English just for pure, obvious historical reasons. But, you know, Ireland's a small country, so it makes sense they have to go outside of it maybe too, if you want to level up at some point. The U.S. had to go outside. Everybody's got to go outside their country at some point to try to level up. Canada went outside. Basically everybody. England went outside.
Like everybody.
It's just... We're just doing the carousel. We're on the carousel of coaches, everybody. Still curious, though, how Irish people feel.
No, I do think Carla Ward is probably the best appointment because, like I said, she's going to be she's very good at nurturing young talent. And like we said, they're aging out some players, bringing in the youth. So I'll be excited. And the World Cup qualifiers start after the Euros. So let's see how she does.
All right. That's it for us this week at the Women's Soccer Show. A reminder to tune in to our Patreon. There's tons up there. Allie's been cranking out a bunch of episodes, going through each national team, going through each league. We just had one on the Scottish League. We're going to talk. Allie's just making their way around Europe basically right now, and then we'll head out of Europe. We're going to get that episode up on NWSL transfers and the whole off season. So head on over there, patreon.com/the Show. As Allie said last week, it's a cup of coffee. The price of a cup of coffee every month. So why wouldn't you?
Yep. Also, me and Mike are back with another episode of The Other 8. That will be up on Friday. So we're going to be talking about the WSL, probably looking at Spurs versus Crystal Palace, because that was a wild game. So yeah, but hit us up on Patreon, man.
Yeah, for those who don't know, The Other 8 is our Patreon show where Allie and Mike cover the not top of the table, the bottom of the table of the WSL. All right, that's it this week. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.